Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Dawn and myself for Marriage and Money in a Time of Crisis. This is a special workshop that we put together to help you with all the challenges that you might be dealing with now around your finances and also your relationship, because financial stress, talking about many of these things can be difficult. So we have a lot of wonderful content. Again, thank you so much for being with us today. As you can see here, I am Adam Cole, JDLM. The LLM means a master's in tax law. The JD is a law degree, for those of you who don't know. AHK Coaching, LLC is my couples financial counseling business. And we have Dawn Santoriello, who is a certified financial planner, a CFP, and her business is DS Financial Strategy. She will tell you, of course, more about herself later. So first, it's like, why is this an important topic? Financial communication, talking about money. And as I mentioned before, it's one of the top causes of fighting. It's unfortunately a top cause of divorce is financial stress. And money really touches all parts of our lives. We're spending money constantly. Even in a crisis like this where we're staying home, we are still now thinking about money a lot because we don't know whether our income is going to stay where it is or other things like that. And the big goal of my work is that when you have better communication around money, it's going to lead to a stronger partnership, a stronger relationship with your significant other. So a little bit about me. My background, I originally worked in financial services, and then I went to law school at Duke, and I got a master's in tax law at NYU. I'm also a certified mediator. And this is a picture from my last international trip a couple of years ago, which was to Colombia and Peru. I climbed Machu Picchu, all the stairs myself. I was very proud. And I'm a lifelong musician. I've been playing piano all my life. I used to play tuba and trombone through middle school, high school, and college. And in fact, I have some videos up on my YouTube. I make these parodies about different personal finance topics. I made one about the pandemic, and I rewrite lyrics to popular songs and play and sing. So those are a lot of fun. You can check them out. My YouTube channel is just my name, Adam H. Cole. So here's just a quick disclaimer. Take a moment to look over that. But basically, I'm no longer practice law, and I am not advising as a lawyer in this context. So no, there's no attorney-client privilege or any attorney-client relationship, or nothing here should be construed as tax or legal advice. You'll definitely want to speak to your own specific tax or legal advisor about your particular situation. So my presentation is about how to get the conversation started in a healthy way. And then Dawn is going to talk about what things you want to be talking about with your partner on the more kind of practical and tactical side of finances. And in my work with my clients, with my couples, I've seen how important it is to understand your why. And you might have many whys in your life. You might have many things you care about. Here, I'm talking about your why for why you even want to work on your finances and your financial communication with your significant other, right? Like, why does this even matter? Because it's not always going to be fun or comfortable, right? We get to a point where it's phenomenal and it's expansive and it helps you have a more beautiful life and relationship. That's the goal. But especially in the early stages, it may not be comfortable. So, if we keep our why in mind, it's often helpful in guiding us through. So the two places I recommend looking to figure out what your why is number one, your feelings about your partner. Like, hey, I'm crazy about you. I want to spend our lives together and have an amazing life, right? Like, that will help guide you in, okay, even if this conversation, if I'm a little nervous about it, I still want to have it. Secondly is your hopes and your goals and your vision for yourself and for your partnership with your significant other. That vision to be able to travel the world, or to retire at 45, or the hopes to be able to have a beautiful home to raise your kids and send them to all the best schools and programs. That's why it's worth doing this work, so that your relationship is stronger, so that your finances are stronger. And when times get tough, your why is often the thing that's going to be able to pull you through to the next stage, right? Whether that's today when it gets uncomfortable, or even in the future. So another essential piece to unpacking your relationship with money and to improve your communication with your significant other is to understand your own money story. So here are a few really important questions to consider. Now, your money story is essentially the different experiences you've had with money, the way you were raised, what you learned from society, and then how you've taken that in, and maybe you've like assimilated some of that. Like you're like, okay, I took this on, I agree with it, or I disagree with it, maybe I rejected it. And oftentimes these things affect us in subtle ways that we're not even really aware of, or at the very least we don't take the time to verbalize. So here's some important prompts. Thinking about, like, how do you view money first? Like, is it easy, is it hard, is it scary? It could be more than one of these things. Another powerful place to look is your culture and your religion. Any stereotypes about your culture or religion, or any views that they had about money. And again, it doesn't mean that we took these things on or that we act in those ways, but it's powerful to look and say, okay, this may have affected me. For example, so I'm Jewish, and I was once doing a workshop and I had a Jewish participant, and she raised her hand at this point and she goes, oh my God, I just realized that I'm treating my friends to dinner all the time because there's a stereotype of Jewish people being cheap, and I don't want to be viewed as that cheap Jewish person. I want to show I'm different. So I'm going to treat people to dinner. And that's fine. Treating people is great. But this person also had 5 figures of consumer credit card debt, right? So she wasn't necessarily in a position to be treating to dinner, and her friends weren't particularly in need. So she was able to see, whoa, there's a missing intentionality here. It's great to be generous, but if you're being driven by something else that you don't even know is there, it can be affecting your decision making. So a third place to look is at your family experiences, what you saw growing up with mom and dad or whoever was around you, as well as your past romantic relationships may affect how you show up with money. I have plenty of clients who have been burned in the past. They have had, let's say, a boyfriend or fiance or husband who maybe took advantage of them financially. And so now they're a little more cautious and almost less trustworthy with their current partner, right? So dynamics like this, or what did you see with your parents? I mean, I've had clients where their parents were divorced and the relationship was messy, including around money, and it had a profound impact on their lives and relationships later. So spend some time thinking about that. Other places to look are your gender, your race, your sexuality, etc., and thinking about how, again, any norms or stereotypes in that community or about that community, how you may have been socialized based on those identities, things like that often play a big role. And again, we may accept or reject those ideas, but nevertheless, they are influencing us in some way. And then a final place I'll suggest you look, and there's many others, but just to keep it not too long here, is how do you feel about earning, spending, saving, investing, your ability to do those things? Do you feel confident in them, etc. And when I work on this with my clients, we go even deeper into this. But here's some really great prompts to get you started. Now, for those of you who are watching, especially on the replay, I would suggest that you pause the recording now and take about 5 to 10 minutes and work on those prompts for your money story. So what I really encourage people to do is to draw it. I learned this from a art therapist I worked with who trained me to mentor some kids through the YMCA. And there's so much value in drawing, and I am a stick figure artist, so there's no requirement to be talented at it, but I find that it really pulls out a different form of expression and helps people create things that they didn't even realize, or access feelings, or get clarity that they didn't even know that they could. And then this is a really neat thing to be able to do, and then have your partner do it, and then share with each other what it means, right? It's a really great way to get the conversation started in a way that's just sharing about your history with money, instead of trying to argue about a specific item in the budget. Oh, should we spend more? Should we get HBO Go or not, right? Like that can be an argument. This is just my story, right? So it's a really great way to get the conversation started. So take a few minutes to do that. You can rewind to see the prompts. Now what I want to talk to you about are the most common causes of money fights. Number one is fear and defensiveness. And this is because money is an uncomfortable topic. It's taboo for so many of us. And we're afraid to talk about it. So when our partner brings it up, that fear kicks in. We get into kind of that fight or flight mode. We become really defensive. All of our kind of fear-based mechanisms kick in and we're not being our best selves, right? So I'm going to talk to you about fear on the next slide and how we can work with that to combat the fear and defensiveness. Other things that I see a lot with my clients are different resources. So maybe one person makes a lot more money than the other, right? Or maybe they come from a family that has a lot more money than the other. So this might shift how you view different risk taking or different ideas or different situations. So for example, one person came from a wealthy family, one person grew up in poverty, right? Different habits. One person likes to spend money, a little bit of money each day or each week. The other person likes to save it all up for one occasion, or one person likes to spend on travel, another person likes to spend on luxury goods. Different habits can create conflict, right? And then a final one that I'm going to list here, of course, there are others, but these are some of the most common ones, are just different values and experiences. So this could be like, I want to send my kids to private school, and no, I think it's fine to send them to public school, or different experiences. Again, maybe you've had a partner who took advantage of you financially, and so that's colored your feelings about money inside of relationships. Maybe the other person hasn't. So these are all great places to look inside of yourself, but the goal is also going to be to cultivate empathy for your partner and the life they've led, so you can understand where they're coming from and realize that each of you is just trying to do your best, and you both want this relationship to succeed and thrive, but they're just stuff that sometimes gets in the way. And that's what I'm here to help you with today and the work I do with my clients. And by the way, I've worked with clients all across the spectrum. They've come to me sometimes because they're fighting about money and it's really bad and they're on the verge of divorce. But a lot of my clients have fantastic relationships, and this is just the one issue. They're like, I would feel so excited about marrying this person if we handled this, or I would feel so great about having a kid with this person or moving forward in our life, but money, man, it's just mystifying. We don't know what we're doing. It's uncomfortable, right? So that is actually a really common dynamic because money is such a difficult topic. And my work is to help you move through that and turn it into an area of strength for your relationship. So what do you do when that fear comes up? Well, here's a few great notes. One is that fear and courage can coexist together. I remember learning this. It really blew my mind, right? A lot of us, I'm afraid, it crowds out anything else. But the reality is you can be afraid and take action. As a small business owner, this is most days of my life. And I'm sure if you're a parent or you're in a committed relationship or you've ever run a bit, like all of these situations, right, they call for courage in the face of fear and the unknown. And then as far as a few steps to take, if you're really deep in this fear, number one, I would suggest writing about it, like journaling about it. Pull out a Google Doc or a notebook and just dump all of your thoughts. And you'll usually find two things when you do this. First is that the list of concerns or worries you have or fears is finite, right? It's not an infinite list. There's a certain number of them. And that starts to help you feel like, oh, we can get this resolved. Secondly, as you write them down, you may realize that you'll prioritize certain ones. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm worried about this, but this is really the main worry. If I could get that resolved, I'd feel a lot better. Well, that's going to help you prioritize topics for when you talk to your partner. Because as the last step says, one step at a time, or the last note here, you're not going to talk about every topic in one conversation. So now you've written this down, you have a sense of your main concerns and the priority of them. Now just breathe, right? And this is especially leading into the conversation. Get grounded, however that is. Deep breaths are essential for me, from the belly up and out through, like in through the nose, out through the mouth, just to calm my nervous system out of that fight or flight mode. And before the call, envision how do you want to be in that call, right? And this is kind of one of those things where you could look back at your why. Well, if you're committed to having the most beautiful life possible with your partner, with your spouse, with your significant other, then envision how would you want to be in this conversation, that would help you move towards that goal. Well, probably you'll come up with something like loving, compassionate, empathetic, right? And then when you are sitting down and having that conversation, as I mentioned before, one step at a time. No one, especially if you've been ignoring this topic for a while, a number of years, you're not going to take care, or struggling with it, you're not going to take care of everything in a single conversation, but maybe prioritize your top issue and maybe also one from your partner, right? And work through that. And just continue moving forward and making that progress. And over time, it will yield tremendous results. So I want to talk about something. It's a concept that I use with my clients just to visualize and understand how to have healthy dialogue and how to talk through challenges. So I call it the communication remodel. You can see at the top, the R and the E are capitalized, not a typo, but because it consists of on the two axes on the up and down. Y axis is responsibility, that's the R. The X axis left to right is empathy, that's the E. So let me define these. When I talk about responsibility, I mean acknowledging the impact your actions had on what ensued, right? The relationship between I did this or didn't do this, and it caused this or that, right? And empathy is understanding where the other person's coming from, seeing from their point of view, walking a mile in their shoes, right? Anything like that. You may have heard it explained different ways. So there's basically four different places you can be in generally. And again, of course, life exists on a blurry continuum matrix thing, but this will hopefully be instructive, and you can start to see where you might be landing in certain conversations and how you can move to that upper right hand, the orange one. So first is in the green is when you have responsibility. We're higher up on that axis, but no empathy. So you're recognizing the link between what you did and what it resulted in. So you say, yeah, it's my fault. So imagine if your partner came to you and you told them how you were feeling about something that hurt you. And they're like, yep, I can see that I, overdrafted the bank and you're upset and it upset you. Or like, I can see that I can see that I overdrafted the bank account and now you're upset, right? And that caused you to be upset. That would feel okay, but I suspect, like, would that really give you that feeling of like really being heard and understood? Maybe not, right? So let's try now having empathy, but without that responsibility. Well, you'd say to your partner, hey, you overdrafted the bank account and that was like, I got really upset. You say, wow, yeah, I really hear that you're feeling upset. Like you're really feeling upset. And I get that you're feeling upset, right? Like I get it. That would also feel kind of weird because they haven't acknowledged the role that they played, right? As far as like, oh, they're understanding that you're upset, right? And even that they might even say you're upset because of the bank account being overdrafted. But unless they take responsibility, like it was my overdrafting of the bank account, you might feel kind of hollow, right? Like something's missing. Now, the worst place to be is no responsibility, no empathy. So this looks like, honey, you overdrafted the bank account and I felt really upset about that. I don't care. I'm not like concerned about the impact I had on that. Don't care about how you feel. This one is clearly no good, right? But now the place to really land is combining the responsibility and the empathy. And this looks like simply, as you see in the orange box, I understand you and my role, both. So it would be like, I hear, honey, that you were upset and that it was because I overdrafted the bank account that caused you to be upset, right? And you can maybe even take it a step further and understand why that upset them, right? It upset you because now we're paying this extra money and you're nervous about us affording our mortgage for the month or whatever the case may be. So that's really the ideal place to get, is where you're having responsibility, acknowledging the role you played in the situation and understanding the person opposite you, right? And of course, this would work great in any relationship, but certainly with your significant other is a really powerful model to use. Now, my last content slide before we get to Dawn in the second half of telling us what to be talking about now that you're able to have healthy conversations. So how do you actually have this conversation? Well, first is setting the stage for it. Try and find some peace and quiet. Now, normally, I say, hey, get a babysitter if you need to. With what's going on right now in the world, that may not be possible. But see if you can cultivate that for yourself somehow. Maybe it's when the kids have gone to bed or something like that. Cultivate some peace and quiet so that you can be present for this conversation. Secondly, I recommend getting connected to your partner. Maybe for you, that means talking about your day. Maybe that means cuddling. Maybe that means watching a TV show together or having a glass of wine, whatever helps you to get connected. This is valuable for any uncomfortable conversation or any important conversation. And third is just technology free. There will come a point in your money dates that you'll want to have with some regularity to implement your plan. There'll come a time where you'll need to have like a computer out, right? Because you'll be like checking your finance tracking app or your spreadsheet or your bank accounts or whatever. But for this getting things started conversation and getting on the same page from an emotional and relational perspective, you can be tech free, leave the phone and computer aside, and just work on really being present with each other. So in a moment, Dawn's going to tell you what to be talking about and what things to work on and what she can offer around your finances. But I just wanted to share, because this is my main piece of the conversation, a little bit more about the work I do. As I mentioned, I work with couples, and we go through a personalized program. There is deep growth for each individual and the couple. And the idea is for you to resolve any tensions or conflict you have around money, learn how to have healthy dialogue. And then once you do that and you understand your own feelings about money and your own values, now we can create a plan. And it can be a shared vision that you both are excited about. And then I help you not only create that plan, I actually help you execute that plan, give you the support and accountability in doing that. And my clients have gotten all kinds of results. Like one couple, I noticed they were both underpaid, and I coached them through how to talk about money with their boss and how to ask for a raise. And they got an over 20% increase in household income just through those conversations. Other couples, I had a couple come to me on the verge of divorce, and by the time they were done, they were calling each other best friends again, and they hadn't done that in years, while also paying off over $25,000 in debt. And results like this kind of all across the board. So here's how you can contact me. That's my name. It's also my LinkedIn, Adam H. Cole. You see my phone number, email, and my website. You can go, if you're interested in discussing further the possibility of working with me, you can go on my website, and through there's a link to book a complimentary financial harmony consultation where we'll identify your top priorities and your top challenges around your relationship and your finances. And finally, if you'd like to find out what couple's money type you are, then you can go to that link there, bit.ly/love money quiz. And there's a really neat, fun little quiz where you can figure out your couple's money type. And then based on which type you are, I have a specific tool and a giveaway for you that's going to help you advance your relationship to the next level and strengthen your relationship with money and your significant other. So just lastly, want to say before I hand it over to Dawn, everybody stay healthy, stay in touch, and please don't hesitate to let me know how I can support you and your families.
Right, that was great, Adam. I really love that money story because, without knowing your money story, how can you solve anything? I really love that. And it's a nice segue into mine. I'm going to tell my story, not my money story, but just how I got started. So let me share my screen and let me just get us up here. Sorry. So let's go to presentation mode. Okay, so as Adam mentioned, my name is Dawn Santoriello, and I am a certified financial planner and president of DS Financial Strategies. I'm a fiduciary, which means I have a legal obligation to my clients to put their best interests ahead of my own. I also host a YouTube show called Financial Fridays with Dawn, where I give out some tips on your finances and your well-being. And I've been published in various magazines, podcasts, and I've been doing this for over 15 years. So my story is that I was born into poverty. Basically, I had a mom and dad who were unwell. They were drug addicts and abused alcohol. So it fell upon my grandmother to raise us. And my story was, I'm never going to be poor again. I don't like this, and I don't want other people to be like this. And I want to help people and myself get financial security. So, and then I was adopted, and that's when I really realized how important it is for financial stability. which is why I love, Adam, what you're doing. You're bringing that stability and security to these couples, and that's very important to help them. So my journey into the financial field is, first, I started out as a life insurance agent, providing families with the peace of mind that they needed in case, God forbid, something happened to them too soon, that their loved ones and family would be taken care of so they could go to college, pay off the mortgage, or whatever else, just to give them that income security if they couldn't be there for their families. And also to provide them security if they did live, but they were just hurt and couldn't work. So, and then I was like, okay, this is good that I'm doing that, but now let's see, how can I actually help my clients grow their wealth? So then I became licensed to sell investments. And I've learned there were so many different options and different philosophies and competing interests out there. So I wanted to just cut straight through it and find out what is the truth about investing and how can it really help my clients, not the big fund companies. So I learned about that, and now that's what I use. I use evidence-based investing for showing my clients the best way to invest and how to do it on a low-cost basis and when you're really going to get results. And the biggest thing that I do is kind of like you, I'm also there for them emotionally, because most people, especially now during the downturn, they let their emotions take over, and that's the worst thing you can do. And that's why it's so important to work with an advisor, because we're going to keep you from making irrational decisions. And actually, Vanguard even did a study that working with an advisor actually adds 3% to your wealth, because again, they're going to control those emotions, because I think that's their job. And if you're so close and attached to it, it's kind of hard when you see it going down. But the money will come back. Look, for example, like say you hear those stories about the little old ladies back when they just got a job when they were in their early 20s. They bought like a certain amount of stock and they just left it alone. And then now they're 90, it's worth millions of dollars because they let time do its thing, and they didn't interfere with the market or taking money out, moving it this way, moving it that way. They just let it alone. And that's how you're going to grow your wealth. So then the next logical step, because I love learning and always like finding the truth about everything, was I became a certified financial planner. Now that is a lot of work. I've been to college. This was even more intense. We had to be a CFP, you have to have a college degree. You have to pass 6 tests and also the courses that go with it. Then do an ethics course. Then you have to pass the big test, which is a 6-hour exam encompassing everything you've learned in those 6 courses. And there's only a 62% pass rate. So it's very exclusive to be in that club to call yourself a certified financial planner. So, and as I was getting into that, what I realized is that I needed to put a program together to make financial planning accessible to more people. Because the traditional model is you pay a large upfront fee, or you have to have a certain amount of assets to get financial planning. And yes, while that works for a lot of people, some people like the millennials and even some Gen Xers, they might not have the assets or want to pay that upfront. So they want to pay like maybe a monthly fee to get advice. So that's why I put a program to help people with that and make it more affordable. Because here's a lot of the problems that we face. One is that we have no guidance. Like I said, we don't meet the minimum requirements or don't want to pay such a large upfront fee for advice. Lack of organization. I see this a lot. People have their accounts all over the place. They may have 3 different 401ks from former employers. They have a ton of credit cards. So it's like really hard to keep track of everything. And wouldn't it be nice to just have like one spot on dashboard where you could see your whole entire financial life? That's what my goal was. And then confusion around investments. I hear it all the time. I don't know what to invest in. My friend's doing this. Maybe I should do that. Or I heard this is a great stock pick. I listened to Kramer. He's telling me to do this. And it's just so conflicting. Another thing is people feel overwhelmed. Like there's so much to do and you don't want to make a mistake. You have too much fear around that. Or there's just too much information. And then you decide, you know what, I'm just going to get to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes. Debt. And a lot of people are carrying around a lot of debt. So you want to have a plan to reduce that debt. But most people, they don't even know how to or where to begin. And where you really have to begin, as like Adam had said, it's all with your story. Because if you don't get your story straightened out and clear all that negative stuff around debt, you're just going to keep creating it more and more. So we have to get rid of the emotional feeling of why you're carrying that debt. And then you'll be free, and then we can put together a plan and you'll be debt free for the rest of your life. Oh, I'm getting chills because I love that. Another thing is money education. Personal finance, like budgeting, it isn't taught in schools. I learned from my mom back in the day when people still use checkbooks, and I still use one today. I like to write everything down and balance it. I like to see the numbers. So that's another problem that we have. And then finally, there's so many different competing goals, and which one takes priority? So how do we handle that? And that's what I help people with. And there's so much more to go on, but I don't want to be here all day. So, but that's just to give you an idea of some of the things that I help people with. And then people, they have questions. Okay, like we said before, how can I pay off my debt sooner? How can I get my budget, or as I like to call it, a spending plan, under control? How much do I really need in my emergency fund? And how much should I spend on my new home? Should I put buy a 15-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage? Do I put 20% down, or do I put only 3.5%? And finally, do I have enough insurance? People are so confused when it comes to insurance. And most people forget the most important insurance, disability insurance, to protect your income. Another thing is, my 401k invested well. I use a program called Riskalyze. So every time somebody wants me to invest their money, we sit down and take an emotional risk tolerance, because as we learned, a lot of people think that they're aggressive, especially in these past 10 years, but then comes the coronavirus and people realize they might not really be as aggressive as they thought they were. So then we evaluate their risk again to see, okay, yeah, this is what you really are. And now when the market comes back, which it always does, you're still going to be this, because you really aren't aggressive. You have to manage for your risk. And that goes, again, how should I be invested? We covered that. And how do we pay for college? There's so many different strategies. Which one is going to work for you? And when can I retire? A lot of people, young people, they don't really think about it, but retirement comes up quicker than you think. I'm going to be 42 this month, and I just remember only being 26 when I got in the business, and I'm like, whoa, it just flies. Another 20 or so years, I'll be retired. So you got to start planning before you wait till the last minute. So the solution that I came up to this with was to offer a subscription-based financial planning service, which I call Get Real with Your Money. And I came up with that name because people, they don't want to address it. They run away from it. So it's like, no, we're going to get real right now. We're going to look at it and we're going to address this. And here's what comes with my program. You get your own personal financial website where you can see your entire financial life. You aggregate all your accounts, your savings, checking, investments, credit cards, anything you have. And there's even a nice spot, a vault, where you can put all your important documents like your wills, family photos, different things like that, your wishes of what you want to have happen. Then you can create spending plans, track your cash flow so you can see, okay, this is what you're really spending. You thought you were spending this, but this is what it really is. And then the net worth tracker. So you could always see how your actions affect your net worth. And this updates every night. So that, I really like that feature. And it's also very secure. They're not going to go sell your information to other sites like how Mint does. Debt management, we're going to show you how to get out of debt quicker so we can get rid of those negatives and turn them into a positive. Track your goals, set priorities to them. Look at your insurances, what risk are you exposed to? And then you have unlimited access to me, your financial planner. So, and now I want to talk about, okay, what can we do right now in the time of this crisis? This is what we need to look at. One, from a legal standpoint, let's get everything in order here. Make sure you have all your documents. You need a living will, and a power of attorney, just to make sure everything is going to go according to your plans. So, because if you don't have anything, the state decides who gets your belongings. And then also, get them now, because God forbid you do become sick, it's going to be a lot harder to get them done. So always prepare now, today. And then this doesn't have to be done in person. I know a lot of people are concerned about the virus, but check with your state attorney. There's different rules, and some attorneys will actually be able to, like, you meet at the office and you stay outside and wash your hands or hand sanitizer, and then they'll go in and sign it and bring it to you. So there's lots of ways that can be done. But again, each state is different, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you any advice. And what else you should do right now financially is, again, reevaluate your risk. Because again, you might find out that you really aren't, and only do this if you literally cannot sleep at night. Because otherwise, if you're just afraid because, oh no, my money's down, it's gonna come back. But this is for the people who really, it's literally affecting their health and they can't sleep. We don't want that to happen. So do that. Also, if you're a little bit older, you might want to consider lifetime income options. A lot of my clients are okay at this time because their extra money is in the market, and that's okay to fluctuate because they have that guaranteed stream of income coming in every month. Another thing, make sure your final expenses are guaranteed, meaning you have a life insurance policy in place. And term insurance can be really inexpensive if you're young and can't really afford a different type of permanent policy. And also consider your time horizon. Like I said, again, if you're young, the markets are always going to go up and they're always going to come down, and usually they 10-year cycles. So you have plenty of time. And now is actually a good time because when the market's low, that's when you want to be buying. And then just also review your beneficiary forms on your own personal investments, insurances, but also on your 401k plan at work, because we want to make sure that's all up to date.
Dawn?
Yes.
When you say consider lifetime income options, what kinds of like vehicles or things are you thinking of?
There's annuities that they could either be like immediate annuities, paying out money immediately, no fees, or like fixed index annuities that are going to have an income rider later on. So
right. So it's like where you're giving them the chunk of money now, but then they guarantee you no matter how long you live, you're going to have a certain amount of money coming, right?
Yeah. Like I just had a call the other day from one of my clients. Actually, she's my longest client I've had since I've been in the business. And she's like, Dawn, I counted out my money. I only have $300,000. I'm going to run out of money. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. If you didn't work with me and we didn't set up these plans, you would. But you're never going to run out of money. And you could actually even take more income than you're taking now. And she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, what, I really can? And I said, yeah. She's like, oh, that's great. I'm like, oh, thank you. She's like, I was all upset this whole weekend. So it's again, and there's good annuities, there's bad annuities, just like anything. There's good and bad. You want to research them, work with a fiduciary, talk to your certified financial planner, and see what is best for you. Some other things we could do now in regards to taxes, since the market is low right now, it might be a good time, because your account balances are low, is consider possibly converting your existing IRA to a Roth IRA. Because some people might not be aware of this, but when you go to retire and take money out of your traditional IRA, you're going to pay income taxes on that. And right now we're in a low tax bracket. So where if you had it in a Roth, all the money you put in now, you're not going to get a tax deduction, but that's going to all come out tax-free. So you kind of got to weigh that trade-off. Do I want to pay some taxes now? Or do I want to not pay taxes now, but have the whole thing be tax-free later on? So it's a measure in that, and we can help you with that. And now, like say some people they wanted to buy a house, but they had so many capital gains in their account and they were afraid to sell. Well, now the gains are going to be minimized because your account balance is lower. So now might be the time to sell out and pull that onto the sidelines. And also, if you're age 72 or older, you're allowed to skip your RMD this year. What an RMD is, it's your required minimum distribution, meaning when you have those traditional IRAs, you have to take out a certain amount of money based on your age. So again, to help save money this year, don't take that. So you could avoid having to pay those taxes. So those are some things that we do. And then here's some other tips where I know, Adam, you might want to chime in here and kind of talk about why here. Obviously, it's important to have liquidity and have cash. I always recommend like 3 to 6 months of expenses, because then this time, even though it's rough, it would be easier to handle it, knowing that, okay, I planned for an emergency. And this is the time that you do tap into that emergency fund. An emergency is not like, ooh, I got to go buy that new shiny new mountain bike that I saw. That's not an emergency. You can tell.
Right. But yeah, I agree on that. I mean, it's always a lot easier to spend from your own available cash than it is to, let's say, go try and get a loan, right? So right now, if you have that cash, it's like that can't be taken away from you. So one of the best things to do is see what you can do to hold on to that cash. But with the caveat that, like you said, this is the right moment to be using your emergency fund, but we want to preserve that all as long as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, look into the government programs. Like you may be qualifying for unemployment now, even self-employment people, they could qualify. Maybe you could get the paycheck protection loan if you're a small business owner. Look into that. And again, limit your discretionary expenses. So, and now this doesn't mean your whole life, this just during a crisis. And then car insurance, I know they're giving some discounts out because we're not driving as much. And then you have to double check on that. I got an email saying I was saving 15%, but I still got billed the full amount. So I called my agent. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And then look for ways to boost your income. I have a passive income stream where now it's killing it because it helps people get healthy and it boosts their immune system. So it's nice to have different sources of income. And so that way you can diversify. Yeah, diversify your income. We talk about diversifying your investments. Why not do that?
Yeah.
And so there's always different ways to do that.
Yeah, and just on the other slide, if you don't mind, go back for a sec. Thanks, Dawn. Just a couple of things to note. So on the next slide, we'll talk about the key expenses that are typically not discretionary, and that'll help you with limiting the discretionary ones. But on rent and debt, if you are struggling to pay these right now, pick up the phone. Call your landlord or call the credit card company, see what they're offering, right? Check their websites. If you can pay, I recommend continuing to pay because a lot of times, well, let's say this, if all they're going to offer you is you don't have to make that payment right now, but we're going to continue to add on the interest and you're just going to owe, let's say 3 months from now, you'll owe 3 months worth of more of rent. If you can pay now, you may not want to delay because it would stink to have a 3-month mortgage bill all come due at once, right? But if you're really struggling, then consider your options around that. And depending on your individual situation, it could counsel you more about what choices to make with your debt. But it never hurts to pick up the phone and say, hey, could you waive the interest charge for this month? Or could you, to your landlord, could you work with me on the rent for this month? The worst thing that they'll say is no. But in some cases, they've been willing to help. And along with the car insurance point, like Dawn said, some of them are giving discounts now or refunds of premium because there's less driving happens, so fewer accidents. But if you're somebody now who, let's say, is working from home or otherwise driving a lot less, you maybe were on like the standard plan before, but now you might be able to qualify for a low mileage discount. And it seems like people are saving, depending on their car, like $20 or up a month from that. And while it's not necessarily earth-shattering money, $20 is $20. That's that much more cash you have that you can put towards something important or into a savings account or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I know. And I called up just because I was curious. I called up Chase to find out what they're doing is that they're letting you slide on paying your credit card, but they're still charging you interest. So
right.
You can just pay the minimum. The same with like the car companies. I got to think, oh, we could waive your 2 payments. You don't have to pay them, but you're still going to accrue interest. So like I said, you don't want to be hit with that bill. And especially if you have a mortgage, that could also lead to foreclosure because like forbearance and foreclosure is a little bit different. So they say you don't have to do that. But then at the end of those 3 months that they let you go without paying your mortgage, you're going to have to pay that in full. Otherwise, they could start like the foreclosure procedures.
Right. Right. Yeah. And this is why, again, and what we'll talk about on the next slide is just, it's great to get a sense of where you're at and be able to have these conversations with your partner and start to get these fundamental things in place one by one, chunk by chunk, so that you're able to make these decisions more thoughtfully. The more you're aware, the more you can decide, okay, I'm going to pay this now, or I'm going to pay half of it, or I'm going to talk, you'll be able to make these decisions from a more intentional, thoughtful place.
And that's the one positive that we could see with this coronavirus is that, okay, you're stuck at home with your partner. You're working together closely. So now it's like making it easier to, okay, talk to them. They're right there. Now it's forcing us to talk and get a hold of our budget and going forward. Okay, what are we going to do? We're a team. We survived the crisis. Now how are we going to survive life? And you'll come out better off. So I saw this great, someone sent me this great YouTube video. It talks about, okay, before the coronavirus, people were worried about stuff that really doesn't really matter. They were all worried, oh, we got to hurry up, work, got to go get this, got to get that. Where here it's like, okay, now with this, people are actually, they're baking more, they're spending time walking in nature. So they're getting back to what's really important, what really truly makes them happy, because things don't really make you happy. Because what, you go buy a new car and you're happy for what, a few days. So searching for that inner happiness within you is going to help, and then bringing you closer together with your partner too. Because not all partners are fighting right now. Maybe some are, but some are coming to realize, okay, let's use this time for good. And like, I love you. What can we work on our relationship and how could we grow? And okay, let's not fight about money anymore. Let's deal with this. Let's call Adam, sit down and figure out why we can't solve this and come to a solution and work together. So
yep.
That's like the positive I see of this whole coronavirus and the crisis.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and then here, a crisis budget. So what this means, you can see it's a crisis budget, not a life budget. So it's only temporarily. So obviously, like we said, you definitely want to pay your rent and mortgage, but first talk to your landlord. Food, it's important. And it's important to still eat good food. Organic, maybe if you grow something, if you have a garden, you have yard space, grow some garden, get organic food, because again, it's going to keep you healthier too. Insurance, again, you got to pay your health insurance. That's important. But if you lost your health insurance too, there's other different options. I help people where they could still get medical hospital coverage if they need it. So utilities too, maybe you can negotiate with your utility company, see if they'll help waive some of that. On the debts, which we talked about. And then over here, subscriptions, maybe you don't need to have Amazon Prime, Hulu, Netflix, or say HBO Go. Maybe you just need one of them right now. So that's all different ways that you could kind of save. So crisis budget means crisis mode, cut all the non-essentials. And there's plenty of stuff to do that doesn't cost money. Like go outside. Like I said, being outside, everyone's social distancing, of course. They have their masks on, but I see everybody riding their bike. They're on the trails, walking, and then you're going to feel so much better. And then YouTube, plenty of stuff. Like you could do yoga for free, exercise classes for free, learn how to cook. Like there is so much to do that, this could even carry over to when the crisis is over. You're going to really think about like, oh, do I really need to go spend that? I'm like, I enjoy doing this and it doesn't cost me anything. So like I said, there's always positives out of every crisis. So that's what I also leave you guys with too, to find the positive in the crisis. You don't want to just be all, turn off the news. That'll help uplift your spirits.
That always helps. Oh my goodness. And just a couple of things to add on this, what I recommend for my couples, for my clients, is to really start with the absolute essentials and then see if you feel comfortable adding in anything else based on how much money you have saved, how much money is coming in, and how much you're already spending. So subscriptions, I mean, I got myself Disney Plus a couple of months ago. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I've been able to watch all that stuff. It's been great. But that was the one choice. Okay, this was what worked for me, and I knew it was going to be valuable. And, when I'm done watching the Star Wars stuff, I might cancel it, right? But it's not to say they don't have anything, because we're home now, you want to make sure you're taking care of yourself, but just to be mindful of them and that they might have a space on your budget. And with medical and health there, just meaning other health related expenses, like I have a vitamin regimen that I do, so making sure that you have that stuff. And then on the other debts, like your car payment, of course, make sure that's included on your crisis spending plan and budget, and any credit card minimums that you're going to want to continue paying. And just get all these things written down, right? Food might be the one where see if you can save yourself some money, again, while having good quality food, but maybe you get something when it's on sale or different options. But either way, these are kind of the baseline minimums, and see where you're at from there. And the closer you can stay to that, the more cash you're going to hold on to. And that's going to keep you safe because, of course, I don't have to say this to anybody watching, but even if you have a job, you might be worried right now, am I going to be able to have that job in a week, in a month, in 3 months? I have clients who have not lost their job, but they're concerned about the future and wanting to prepare for that. So this will take you a big step of the way there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now what I'm offering for everybody watching this is I'm offering a complimentary 30-minute consultation so I can evaluate your situation and let you know if I'm able to help you. So what you could do is click the link below and book your free discovery call. So it's dsfinancialstrategies.youcanbook.me. And then here's all my contact information. You could go to my website at dsfinancialstrategies.com. My office number is 215-660-0288. And then there's all my social media stuff. And here's my compliance, legal jargon. So Adam, if you have anything to add, I just want to thank you all for being here and watching the replay. And I hope you found this helpful, and reach out to both of us. Adam is a great resource, especially even before you get married. Even if you're just a couple living together, maybe you're not going to get married, he could help keep you together longer, because like you said, money problems cause fights, and that's the number one reason for breakups.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, I want to say to everybody who's still with us, first of all, like you said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. I also hope that you got a lot of value today. And my challenge to you is to take an action right now. Right? Maybe that's sending a text to someone to say, to your significant other, hey, can we talk about some money stuff later? or maybe that's putting something on your calendar. Monday morning, I'm going to call my car insurance company, or going into Google Docs and opening up a spreadsheet and just like titling it, crisis budget, and you'll be able to do that. For anybody who registered, I will be sending you a template for a crisis budget with those categories that you saw, that you can fill in with your own expenses and your own categories as needed. But take some sort of step, right? Otherwise, it'll be easy for, as Dawn was saying, that kind of overwhelm to set in, and then it can lead to that inaction day after day, as Dawn was saying. But take one action now. Start that movement forward, and you will not regret it. I mean, like you shared about your client, Dawn, I had another client who we met for our quarterly meeting now after they've gone through my program, and they realized they had already created their own crisis budget, and they realized, oh my goodness, we could actually survive on just on the husband's income, not without the wife's income. And she's like, I could actually be a stay-at-home parent if I wanted. I never thought about that before. Oh my God. She goes like, mind blown, Adam. She like literally was like shouting on the call. It's like, whoa. And so much is possible when you get on top of your finances. And Dawn and I are here to help you with that, from both the emotional and the tactical and practical side of things.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope you guys all enjoy your day.